The short guy. The short guy starts with one of the most obvious disadvantages in dating, and pretending it does not matter would be pointless. Height matters. Women notice it, men notice it, everyone notices it. He is usually below average height, and in a room full of taller men, he can get overlooked before he even says anything. Especially when the other guy is 6 feet, standing there doing absolutely nothing, and somehow already winning. That is the unfair part. Because for women, height often creates an instant feeling of dominance, protection, and presence. So when a guy doesn't have that, something else has to do the work. And this is where people get it wrong. Short does not automatically mean unattractive. A short guy can still have a strong face, good style, and solid proportions. That's why someone like Tom Cruise can still read as attractive even without the height advantage. Because if the face card is strong enough, height stops being the only thing people notice. So if he doesn't have the height advantage, what has to carry him instead? Usually, it's the way he carries himself. If he's direct, relaxed, socially confident, and clearly comfortable with himself, people stop focusing only on what he lacks. They start responding to what he gives off. And for some women, that confidence hits harder because it feels earned. A tall guy can feel dominant by default. A short guy has to build it without the shortcut. That's why the short guy doesn't win by pretending height doesn't matter. He wins by making everything else strong enough to compete with it. The ugly guy. The ugly guy is probably the most brutal one on paper. Because unlike height, weight, or style, the face is the first thing people react to. And if his face does not create instant attraction, he starts with a real disadvantage. No perfect symmetry, no sharp model features, no face doing the work for him. He's not the guy who walks into a room and gets attention just by existing. Because for women, the first impression is often visual. Before he says anything, before his personality has time to show, his face has already created a reaction. Or it has not. But here's the strange back. Some ugly guys become more attractive the longer you are around them. Not because their face changes, but because their personality changes the way you see them. They're funny, self-aware, and easy to talk to. They don't act like they're trying to win a beauty contest they were never invited to. And weirdly, that can make them more likable than the guy who only has looks. Because if an ugly guy is insecure, bitter, or desperate, the whole thing gets worse. But if he's relaxed about it, if he can laugh, talk, and actually hold a conversation, his personality starts doing what his face does not. So the question becomes, can someone become attractive after the first impression? And sometimes yes, because attraction is not only built from what someone looks like, it's also built from memory, emotion, and the way someone makes themselves matter. He's not the guy she notices first. He's the guy she unexpectedly keeps talking to. And after a while, the face becomes less important because the person behind it becomes more interesting. The ugly guy doesn't win through instant attraction. He wins when his personality becomes harder to ignore than his looks. The fat guy. The fat guy is one of those types people judge immediately, and not always fairly. Because when a guy is clearly overweight, people attach a lot of assumptions to it. Lazy, unhealthy, unattractive, sometimes even unclean. That does not mean those things are always true, but visually, that is the first impression he has to fight. He is not just a little chubby. He's clearly fat, not muscular, and far away from the body most people imagine when they think of male attractiveness. This should be a major disadvantage, and for many women, it is. But the reason this type can still work is different. He does not usually create attraction through physical ideal. He creates it through the way people feel around him. A bigger guy often feels less intimidating, less judgmental, and less obsessed with perfection. And that changes the dynamic, because around him, she might feel less watched. She can eat normally, relax more, and stop feeling like every little thing is being evaluated. And that lack of pressure can become attractive, especially when he still takes care of himself. Clean clothes, good hygiene, and a relaxed way of carrying himself. Because then he doesn't read as careless, he reads as comfortable. And that is a big difference. The fat guy doesn't make attraction feel intense, he makes it feel easy. And for the right woman, that can be the thing that makes him stand out. The gamer guy. The gamer guy has one of the worst stereotypes on this list, and honestly, some of it exists for a reason. Too much time indoors, messy room, and no sunlight. Sometimes the whole look is dangerously close to Discord moderator with low vitamin D. Not exactly the dream setup. But for a lot of women, it signals low social life, low ambition, and not exactly the most polished lifestyle. But this type does not work on everyone. It works on a very specific kind of girl, usually girls who are online themselves. Girls who play games, spend time on Discord, watch streams, or just understand that whole world. Because to them, he does not feel weird in the same way. He feels familiar. They understand his humor, his references, and his world, and that creates a connection that other guys cannot fake. The outside world might see him as a guy who needs to touch grass, but to the right girl, he is someone she can actually share a world with. That is why the gamer guy does not win through broad appeal. He wins because his niche is stronger than people think. The awkward guy. The awkward guy is the one who never seems fully comfortable in social situations. He says the wrong thing sometimes, he reacts a second too late, and he can make a normal conversation feel harder than it should. Not exactly classic attractive behavior. Because most people expect attraction to feel effortless, confident, calm, and socially clean. And at first, the awkward guy can seem nervous, inexperienced, or just slightly out of place. But this type works in a strange way, because awkwardness can also feel real. He is not performing. He is not trying to run some perfect game, and he is not acting like every sentence was written by a dating coach. And for some women, that makes him easier to trust. He does not feel calculated. He feels human. Of course, this only works if he is still likable. If he is awkward in a genuine, slightly funny and self-aware way, it can become part of his charm. And sometimes that is more attractive than someone who seems too rehearsed. The awkward guy does not win by being smooth. He wins when his awkwardness starts to feel authentic. The skinny guy. The skinny guy is not usually seen as the worst type, but it depends heavily on what comes with it, because skinny can look two completely different ways. If he is short, narrow, and has no frame, it can make him look weak, young, or physically unimpressive. Thin arms, small shoulders, and clothes hanging off him like he borrowed them from his older brother. Not exactly the strongest first impression. But if he is tall, the whole thing changes. Suddenly, skinny does not read as weak in the same way. It reads more like lean, more aesthetic, and more model-like. And that is why height carries this type so much. A tall, skinny guy can still have presence because the frame gives the look structure. Add good hair, a clean face, and clothes that actually fit, and the skinny body can become part of the style. Machine Gun Kelly is a good example of this. Tall, very skinny, tattoos, sharp styling, and somehow he still got Megan Fox. That doesn't happen because he looks powerful. It happens because the whole look has attitude. For some women, skinny works when it doesn't look accidental, stylized, confident, and a little chaotic. This type does not attract through strength, it attracts through aesthetic and attitude. He wins when being skinny starts looking like part of the identity. The loner guy. The loner guy is the one who looks like he doesn't really belong anywhere. He's not loud, he's not social, and he's not trying to be part of every group. At parties, he's usually somewhere on the side, checking his phone, wearing headphones, or looking like his social battery died before he even got there. Not exactly the guy who seems fun at first, because most people are drawn to energy. The guy who talks, the guy who laughs, and the guy who knows everyone. The loner guy is the opposite. He can seem cold, boring, or even a little antisocial, and for a lot of women, that's not attractive at all. But this type works when silence starts creating curiosity. When a guy doesn't give everyone access to him, people start wondering what's underneath. Why is he so quiet? What is he thinking? Is he shy, or does he just not care? And for some women, especially girls who are more introverted or loners themselves, that can be attractive. Because he feels less needy, less performative, and less desperate for approval. He's not trying to win the room. And weirdly, that can make his attention feel more valuable. The loner guy doesn't attract by being exciting, he attracts by being hard to figure out. And for the right woman, that mystery can do more than attention ever could. The broke guy. The broke guy should probably be the easiest one to reject. No money, no status, and no clear stability. Maybe his job situation is messy. Maybe he's still figuring everything out. Or maybe his bank account looks like it's trying to escape the conversation. Not exactly the provider fantasy. Because for a lot of women, stability matters. Ambition matters. Direction matters, and the feeling that a guy has his life under control matters. So when a guy clearly does not have much materially, that becomes a real disadvantage. But then you see the guy with no car, no apartment, no real plan, and somehow he still has women interested. There's even that meme that some women will ignore every red flag if the guy is tall enough, junkie, alcoholic, unemployed, but if he's 6'2" with confidence, suddenly people start negotiating with reality. Obviously, that's not healthy. But the reason the meme exists is because attraction doesn't always follow the checklist people say they have. Sometimes the broke guy still works because everything he lacks materially gets replaced by personality. He has charisma, he knows how to talk, and he makes life feel less serious. And for some women, especially in the beginning, that can be enough. Because he might not have money, but he has presence. He might not have status, but he has energy. He might not look stable, but he feels exciting. That's why this type is dangerous. Because it doesn't work long-term if there's no ambition behind it. But in the short term, charm can cover a lot. The broke guy doesn't win because he has something to offer on paper. He wins because for a moment, the paper stops mattering. So no, looks are not everything. Some guys start with obvious disadvantages and still find a way to make it work. That is what makes attraction weird. It is definitely not as simple as people pretend. So which type makes the least sense to you but still works anyway? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, leaving a like and subscribe would honestly mean a lot to me.